Morning, everyone, where you are. If you're in Europe, probably. Good afternoon.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Simone. So I am Tom Debevoise.
I'm Simone.
Simone.
Yeah.
And I'm with Advanced Component Research. We are a technology partner of Trisotech. And today we're going to, did you want to introduce yourself also, Simone?
No, well, I'm the R&D lead here at Trisotech, and thank you again, Tom, for making this webinar possible with us today.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
I'll let you do the intro.
Okay. So today we're just going to give a short introduction to BPMN and DMN and how that helps you with a low-code solution to technical problems. And we'll describe the integration with the MISMO standards and the data standards. And then we want to spend a bit of time looking at the selling guide, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, for pre-qualification, pre-closing, and pre-sales. So, and then finally, we'll have a few moments for question and answer.
Yeah, and I invite everyone, if they have questions while we're doing the webinar, you can ask them at any time. If we see them at the right time, we may answer your question directly. Otherwise, we'll do that in the Q&A at the end. So, excellent. Let's start this.
So, BPMN and DMN, again, BPMN is amazing, is 20 years old, and DMN is getting to be 10 years old. So both of these open standards for low-code solutions have been widely disseminated through many different industries. And the Trisotech platform probably, I would say, is the most compliant, conformant platform that permits you to create executable solutions in BPMN and DMN. So, Simone, did you want to?
Yeah, so we're not sure exactly who's watching this webinar, so maybe you are familiar with the BPMN and DMN standard, maybe you are not. So we'll just start with a quick overview of what is BPMN and DMN. So this may be the first BPMN drawing, probably not, that you are seeing. Today for the webinar, I'm using the Trisotech Digital Enterprise Suite platform to showcase the different aspects we're going to be talking about. So as your first foray into BPMN, I'm going to be showing a loan origination, very simplified example. And later on, Tom will show you a much more detailed version of that would follow the Fannie Mae seller's guide. But here, if it's the first time you're seeing a BPMN drawing, we have the common shape, a start event. This is where our process will start. We have different tasks that are executed in the process, and we have branching moments. And we have a data aspect that's coming in and coming out of that process. That process is fully executable, so I can load a test case that I have previously created, where I'm going to see if we can originate a loan for Doug Quinn and submit it so we can see the process is running. It's highlighting where it's running. We reach a manual task where we would collect bureau data. So we're going to do that task and say, okay, there were no bankruptcy, which is going to help us accept that and accept the application. So BPMN as a standard is a way for you to express what are the activities that needs to take place, in which order, and how you sequence them. And a very important part of BPMN are the decision tasks for the mortgage industry, because a lot of processes in mortgage will be using, I had it already open, the decisions, where the second standard we're going to talk about today, decision model and notation, comes in. So DMN is a cousin standard from BPMN and has a similar notation where we have decision boxes, input data, and we can also execute this. This is basically part of what I had before. So if I run my same case through it, we can see the different decisions being made and available. So of course, the intent of this webinar is not to teach you how to use BPMN and DMN, but this was just a quick introduction to show you what we're going to be talking about today. So, for instance, today we're also going to be talking about Trisotech newest mortgage feature set that had some very specific mortgage industry features to BPMN, DMN, and especially feel the language that DMN is based on, because DMN uses different ways of representing your logic, such as decision tables, but it also can use an expression language called feel. So if I'm opening the PYTY calculation here, where we do the payment plus tax plus insurance divided by income, all of that with auto completion and everything. So those are basically the feel language comes out of the box with a lot of functionalities that are cross-industry. But Trisotech also provide a set of financial specific function where we can have more advanced function that can be used in DMN models and BPMN models when using feel as well to calculate the annual interest rate, the installment interest, the future values, the net present value. All of those more complex financial formulas can also be integrated in your decision points and the various low code that you create with the platform. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Like
one more thing, maybe I want to. Oh no. Okay. Well, we'll talk about it when we continue with the slides. Yeah. So
no, I just wanted to quickly interject that many of the computations in maybe credit risk analysis, like internal rate of capital return, need these formulas in order to be able to compute the more advanced things. So some of the stuff I've worked with, we've had as many as 30 or 40 of these formulas, and a lot of times they end up in Java. So we'll move to the next thing. So we have an integration on the mortgage feature set, which includes the MISMO. And now MISMO, as most of the folks in this organization know, stands for the Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization. And these standards are designed to make the mortgage process more efficient and to create a common data language. So it helps everyone, lenders and tech providers, communicate better and so forth. But honestly, there are a huge number of data elements in the MISMO, and we have. Can you talk to that? Like,
yeah. So the logical data model is huge, and Trisotech already captures that large logical data model to allow for nearly instant creation of decision and processes that would use that. And I would like to demonstrate that if you want. So first, maybe I can show an integration with the glossary, and then we'll get into the logical data model integration. So let me show you. So at the MISMO standard organization, they've created a very large glossary of terms that have thousands of terms in it, where they also created definitions. And this could be a very great start for your models, because defining a glossary such as this allows you to link those terms in the different models you're going to create so that you disambiguate when you talk about an affidavit, for instance, like you have a single definition for that. And basically, you can always link to those terms in your different models. So that's one of the benefit of connecting to a knowledge entity model, and we have captured the MISMO glossary inside here that can be leveraged directly.
And of course, we also have, we'll get to that in a moment, we also have the selling guide and seller's guide for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in the same structure, using their different terms. One.
So a very interesting aspect of MISMO is it's, of course, the most used MISMO artifact is the logical data model. So we have captured the large, and as you can see here, we categorize all of that by the first level because there's so many different containers in MISMO. So you can find any of the MISMO container and you can simply drag them. Now I'm sharing my screen today, so it's going to take a little bit more time to drag it, but we'll get to it. And I have all of the MISMO structure. So what's really great about DMN is it's a very, very easy way to build decisions that are based on a data model, such as, for instance, here, a MISMO message. So I'm going to do a quick example where I have a MISMO model, a MISMO message here, sorry. That's for a credit check, where it is a full MISMO XML message. And what if I wanted to create a decision that would just check, do I have more than one borrower in there? So to do that, I can simply define my decision logic using the field expression language that we talked about earlier, and simply say, okay, I want to use my message, and I want to see the individual. So that would give me all of the individual, but I want to say, okay, I want to count them, and is it greater than one? So that's the expression I need to write to know, do I have more than one individual inside of that MISMO message?
And then I just would, if you wanted to count all the non-occupant borrowers, or to
I could definitely adapt that query
by adding a filter to
I could add a filter to it, definitively, to be able to filter on the data point that would give me that information. And basically now I just selected my credit 3.5 XML, the file I showed you in there, and I'm submitting it as a MISMO XML so that it's getting correctly mapped to DMN, and submitting it just tells me, yeah, true, there's more than one borrower, because in that example I had more than one borrower. So it is as simple as that, and using the deploy button I can just deploy this model and generate a REST service that would be usable in any IT infrastructure to be able to invoke that service. So of course, like, this is a very simple example. You would not typically have something that would just check if there's more than one borrower, but this could be a decision point in a much larger process.
And just a quick comment is that this approach really it provides a lot of organizational efficiency, because most organizations I've worked with will have like a separate group that does data extraction. They understand this layer and they have to communicate with the developers, and it ends up, as I say, like, a colored sticky on an agile board, right? So the benefit is that we don't have to use that kind of approach so much, because everything comes together.
All right. let's dive into a much more complex example. So, Tom, you've captured the Fannie Mae Seller's Guide. That is a guide that Fannie Mae publishes to basically define what are the different rules and regulation around the mortgages they would be willing to buy, basically. So Freddie Mac does the same thing as well. So
so we went through a very extensive effort to try and establish what the core metrics for making a loan were. And so we came up, and essentially we have these 10 metrics: the price of the property, the loan to value, the mortgage insurance requirements, the credit score, the income of the borrowers, the source, the purpose of the loan, the occupancy, the construction type, and the number of units. And what happens is, if you look through the selling guide, you'll see that there's like a cascade of decisions that utilize these core metrics and kind of modify the ability for that borrower to qualify as a mortgage that Fannie Mae would purchase in their program. So
what about if I was to show that? So I'm going to show the model that you've captured for the Fannie Mae Seller's Guide while you can keep on talking about.
Okay, so for instance, as we all know, if your loan to value is 80% or less, there's certain types of mortgages that mortgage insurance requirements, and there are two layers to those mortgage insurance requirement. There's like a minimal customized layer, and or they Freddie Mac calls it a special mortgage insurance, and those levels are set. Then we move on to the credit score. The credit score sounds simple, like, okay, he has a FICO score of this, but as everyone in this organization knows, you have to have the 3 credit reports. There's certain rules and ways that we combine the FICO scores, the way we average them, the credit scores that we keep, but the ones that we throw out. All of those are described in a lot of detail in the Fannie Mae.
And you've captured that in a decision model in that case, so it's integrated here in the process.
So, and then and then finally, of course, we have the 2 guidelines, which is after we modified all of these metrics and we come up with a representative credit score and so forth. We see whether or not that particular loan application will meet the guidelines, and then we compute the loan level price adjustment. And what the loan level price adjustment is the fee that is charged the seller of the mortgage that that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are going to use in order to hedge that particular loan. So in aggregate, so those rules and regulations are put into these models in a complete manner. In other words, with the exception of employment, because we only really went down full-time employment, these rules and regulations can be dropped into your organization. They implement every aspect of that particular set of rules, and when you look at things like loan level price adjustment, you'll see that there are a lot of edge cases and notes on the side that make you have to go back and make some type of adjustment to the prior decision. So it's not just simply like pulling out a section and implementing it. It does get impact from upstream.
I was going to ask you, Tom, can you comment or explain why you use those knowledge source shape and link them to the different activities? Then you did that pretty consistently across the process. What's the benefit of doing that?
That shows you the particular rules and the section of the selling guide. So if you click on one, you'll see that some of the rules are procedural and can't really be implemented in code. But what happens is if you can implement it in a computation or a comparison or a decision table, we place those rules into the knowledge entity model, so that along with, as you're seeing, the terms underlined in red go back to dictionary definitions.
Yep.
And those dictionary definitions are drawn again out of the selling guide. So we have like this.
So you've also captured all of the terminology of the seller's guide here and created links between them so that we can have a single meaning for those terms. Mm-hmm.
We hope. Again, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have slightly different definitions and slightly different domains for the same item, and then particularly in the way they compute indicator score for Freddie Mac has some slightly different rules for how they derive the indicator score. So there's a number of subtleties between the two, which is why we have two different knowledge entity models, one for Freddie.
All right, let me close that. Go back while you were talking. I also deployed this process because not only is it a complete model of what's happening in the seller's guide, but all of the logic is also there. All of the expression to make that a living service are also there, and we can run this service. Basically, it's going to highlight the path that was chosen. So I chose something that will run all the way through the end. And we get here like the LTV value in the end. So we output all of the criterias basically for the loan, and whether or not the Reg Z ability to repay was qualified and whatnot. So we have all of the information back as a summary at the end, right?
Yes, and at the very end, of course, we're running Regulation Z 1026.46, which are all the rules for the maximum amount that can be charged for a particular loan, and its variance from the APOR and so forth. So
yeah, so basically this model is not only an amazing starting point, but is a good example on how we can capture a set of requirements or governance principles and apply them to create a model that represent them. So, all right, let me close that. Excellent. Anything else you wanted to mention on the Fannie Mae model before we move to questions? Because I want to keep 5 minutes for question at the end.
No, I think I mean that summarizes it pretty much. So it's been an extensive effort, many pages of documentation and regulations have been covered to create.
Great. So we have about 5 minutes left for question. You can go in the chat and ask them. There's one question that I've missed. Sorry about that, from the earlier part of the webinar. And let me try to rephrase this. In the demo, you're using the MISMO data structure. Can we do the same thing using our own data structure? So the answer to that will be yes, definitely, because BPMN as a standard, you can define your own data model. Here I was reusing the message data model from MISMO, but I can use any data model, whether I'm importing it from a JSON schema definition, an XSD definition, or or I'm just creating it in BPMN. But you can define the data model on which you want to write your rules and processes. Excellent. Let's go back to questions. All right. Tom wants to see the Freddie Mac model. Do you mind if I show that?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Let me open this. So we'll just go back to the Freddie Mac model. Okay. All right. So we have the Freddie Mac model here. We can see that it is similar. Do you want to highlight a few of the differences? And I'm probably going to be sorry I asked this question because I know you can talk for 30 minutes about the difference between both seller's guide, but let's keep it like to a minute explanation here.
Yes, I'm known as the master of the rabbit holes. The two central differences in terminology: credit score is evaluated into indicator score, and they have three different options for the way that the loan credit officer can evaluate those scores, and then of course the loan level price adjustment from Fannie Mae is actually just the what they call, look at what is the one at the end, the credit price. So,
sorry, I'm reading the questions that are coming in.
Okay, go ahead.
No, but continue. We'll
no, that's all. That's all questions. Really. Those are Other than that, they're pretty close and they pretty much harmonize. So it's just that the language is a little bit different for the ways that they're described.
So one of the questions we got also is there an integration for mortgage credit with this application? So that's an interesting question. The Trisotech platform basically allows you to leverage any external system that exposes an API. So if you have the API for the credit bureau you want to integrate, you can definitely do that through what's called in BPMN service tasks. And basically, when importing that definition, it will also come with the data model from that bureau. So it should come in directly. Another question we had, and maybe you can take that one, Tom. Who are your target users for the Trisotech platform? Oh, maybe I can take it then. So,
before you go further, the question about mortgage credit is, I guess John is trying to clarify what he said. Mortgage loan originations. So I guess John, are you asking whether we could integrate with other people who have pre-qualified of certain mortgage, or some of those aggregate companies? So that, anyway.
Wally is probably typing you something,
okay.
And we only have 2 minutes left, so let's talk about the target users for the platform. So the target users are clearly the users that are not extremely technical, so we're targeting more business users. With a platform such as this, you can have non-IT users such as business analysts, lawyers, financial counselors, capture themselves the rules that are part of the process. So Tom created those models. He's not, well, he has some level of IT in his background for sure, but we have a lot of our users that are mostly coming from business background and not technical backgrounds.
I guess to answer John's question is that any of these processes that you see here could be published as a web service. So if the mortgage loan originators have a web service, you would probably create some type of webhook and pull them in. So,
all right. We're gonna end on this, and we got a question at the end if there's gonna be a recording for the presentation. There's definitely gonna be a recording for the presentation. We'll send it to everyone that registered, whether or not you attended. So you will be receiving in the next few hours / day. I'm not sure when exactly it's going to be available, but you'll get a link to this presentation if you want to share it with anyone. And if you have further question, I know we could not address all of the questions live on the webinar. Feel free to reach out to Trisotech using our website and our contact us function. And I guess, Tom, that's going to be it for us. And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.